this Monday morning is emotional alchemy. And I think it's time to address the phenomena that so many of us as sensitives are subject to, where we kind of act as lightning rods for different emotional energies, and how to transmute and transform them. And maybe that's part of our purpose here. So before we dig into that and explore that, let's just take a minute or two to get centered and present. And so let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And just fill your lungs with crisp, clean oxygen flowing into your bloodstream, into your cells, into your organs, enlivening and revitalizing you. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, and just allow yourself to find ease in your body. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it, and this time imagine sparkling white light lighting up every molecule and every electron in your body, and how those electrons and molecules are connecting you to the world beyond you and the universe, and connecting you to every other thing and being and thought on the planet. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining stress and tension. And now let's just gently press our palms together really softly, really, really gently. Rub your fingers against your palms and feel that tingling and that tickling and that delicious sensation, and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another week. My, oh my, they just fly by. Isn't it true? Oh, anyway, I want to talk about how so many sensitives really are kind of the canary in the coal mine, and lightning rods for emotion, which is energy. The prevailing winds of emotion and change, transformation. We've been, as a human family, we have been experiencing such a tremendous range of emotions. Sometimes it feels like an assault, right? There's so much energetic information coming through, and there's the anger and fear and divisiveness and conflict, and there's hope, and there's love, and there's joy. The thing that I'm addressing today, though, is how so many of us who are energy type people, and particularly sensitive, how we are prone to receiving these emotions and these energies without recognizing that they aren't ours. And this was actually something, so many of us are empathic, is really what it comes down to. And what it brings to mind to me is when I was a kid, I was very, very empathic. I was living in a toxic environment, and I had all these feelings that I did not know were not mine. And it was very confusing. It was very disruptive, because how I perceived myself was always depressed. And in fact, I was depressed for most of my life. Hi, Natalie. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about emotional alchemy, and how so many of us are really alchemists that are transmuting and transforming the energetic signature of the planet and of humanity, and how it's often something that we don't recognize as coming from as a response to external stimulus. We often experience our emotions like what's wrong with me, instead of recognizing the emotions in an objective way and moving through them, transmuting them, elevating them, and working with them as the energy that we are transforming. So oftentimes one of the questions is, what's wrong with me? Another question is, why am I so sad? Like looking for reasons. And not that there aren't a multitude of reasons, but I think that a lot of the time, the things that the emotions that we experience are a reflection of the greater population, are a not just a reflection, but a function of the greater population and the can we say atmosphere that so many of us experience. And I find, especially when I was growing up, I found that it was so difficult to discern. First of all, it never, for most of my life, it hadn't even occurred to me that the emotions I was feeling might not be mine. And when I finally realized that, I started taking on a sort of a mantra when I was feeling things, and also when I was doing healing work. So it went something like this: if it's mine, let me learn from it and release it. Let me use it to my highest good and release it. And if it's not mine, I bless it and release it with power to heal. If it's something I'm taking on from someone else. And that in its own way is a protective mechanism that allows us as sensitives to navigate more autonomously, perhaps. And at the same time, we can also transmute those emotions. We can also transform those emotions. And one of the ways that I believe we can transmute and transform the emotions is to experience them. So maybe sometimes it means crying, maybe it means screaming, not necessarily in public, but maybe it means punching a pillow, or pounding the bed or something. But moving those emotions through without the need to assign meaning, because the meaning assigning is what will trap us into an endless loop with the emotions. It'll amplify them and intensify them and justify them and anchor them. And when we can allow ourselves to just be present to the energy of the emotions, then we have the ability to really transform them, I think. Good morning, Christina. Wonderful to have you here with us. And it's great to have all of you here. I so appreciate your company and your engagement in these conversations, because these things are kind of musings for me. One of the reason that I'm bringing this up is last night I just was overcome with such profound emotion that I was, I don't know, I'm sure you've had moments when you're crying so hard that you're just gasping for breath, and these wailing sounds come forth. And that was an experience that I had last night. And it's not that there aren't reasons for that level of emotion, or for emotion in my life. And it's not that I don't experience emotion related to events of my life or my response to events in my life, but the intensity of the emotion was so profound and so extreme that I recognized it as a response to something greater than what was personal to me. Like, well, I just think that some of us are lightning rods, that we are here for one of the reasons that we're here is, I believe, to express and to transmute and elevate the field. It's like, um, plants filter the air, we filter emotions and cleanse it and elevate it. And it's really interesting because in the face of having had such an extreme, profound expression of emotion, I saw myself really looking for, well, why? Why was I feeling that? And looking to make stories around it, even still, even though I know that emotion is energy and pent up energy. And I also know that it's that I tend to pick up energy in the field and energy of the people around me. And so to express that and to allow it to move without needing to assign greater meaning to it is challenging sometimes, because sometimes it feels like you're going crazy, right? When you're having this extreme emotional response and not having reasons for it. I mean, we can always find reasons, but to just to somehow find a place to allow the emotion to move without the story is really what allows us to shift it. Christina says, grief especially comes in waves for me. I agree. Christina says, speaking of emotional waves, here we go. I think everything is intensified right now in terms of energy, especially now between the new moon changes and our societal energies. Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's a growing tension in the U.S. around the election, and there's so much flying, so much energy flying, and so much emotion flying. And I think being able to discern what's our emotion and what isn't is helpful, without having to assign reasons for the feelings we feel. But when we're clear, hello, Danette, welcome. Glad to have you here. We're talking about emotional alchemy and how so many of us take on the emotions of the greater whole. Hello, Bethany. Welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, so intense emotion, sometimes it's ours, sometimes it isn't. And sometimes it's ours amplified by the greater field. And like I said, it has helped me to allow myself to learn from what's mine and to allow what isn't mine to release. And also through my expression, I know that I have taken on uh, the role in a certain way of transmuting emotions from the field, also to elevating the field. And I think if we can come to a place where we don't take our emotions personally, that that could be a really interesting thing that's just occurring to me in this very moment. What might that look like, to not take the emotions personally? Like, we don't take the weather personally, right? If emotions are energy moving through, and they are energies of different frequencies, and we allow those energies to transmute and move through and transform, then we don't have to become as personally engaged in the stories around them. Christina says, the sky reminded me of the waves a couple nights ago. I'll post a pic here when I can after the live. That would be awesome, Christina. Thank you. So yeah, the weather last night was very, very interesting here as well. It was sort of dark clouds, but bright sun, and it just created a metaphor for the way that I am experiencing these times right now, where there are dark clouds and bright sun, and navigating that is, shall we say, interesting at the very least, right? I just noticed that even right now, I'm just on the verge of tears, and I'm just breathing through it. And I know that so many of us have a discomfort with being uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable about being uncomfortable, and we often resist being sad or feeling deep emotions. And the resistance of those experiences helps to anchor it, right? Like, if it's kind of like damming up a river, you know, as we allow the emotions to move and flow, then they will release. They will release. Christina says, I acknowledge the waves, but continue that visualization so that the wave also continues its cycle of being carried back out to sea. I love that, Christina. That's beautiful. Where the energy is transformed with the help of Mother Gaia's ocean of love. I love that visualization. So we can visualize these emotions that we're experiencing as waves that are moving into the ocean and allowing the earth to transform the energy of those waves. Thank you, Christina. I love you too. Yeah, it's a wild ride, right? To be able to be vulnerable, to be able to be tender when you feel tender, or to feel fragile when you feel fragile. So yeah, it's occurring to me where some of the emotion is showing up from for me, and it has to do with the experience of someone I'm very close to, around the notions of life and death and fearing death, and being present to the fear of it. And I think that that's, and I've spoken about this before too. Years and years ago, I read Carlos Castaneda. I think it was A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. There are several Carlos Castaneda books that are awesome. And it's a story about a person who became a sorcerer's apprentice, or an apprentice to a medicine man from a Native American tradition. And he talked about letting death be your guide, having death be your advisor, always on your shoulder. I think it was the left shoulder, but to and that might sound morbid to some, it's actually not. It's kind of beautiful and brilliant, because if we allow our death to be our guide, we get to be even more present to life. And I think that the fear that we experience about our emotions sometimes, about falling into our emotions, may have some relationship with the idea of facing death, facing a certain unknown. And I know that some people, and I in my life too, have felt a resistance to experiencing the emotions I felt, for fear that I would get lost in them, that I would lose myself in them. And that is in its own way a fear of death, right? A fear of a death of a certain identity. So it's crazy times we're living in, right? And I think in these times when we do become emotional, we get to be gentle and compassionate for ourselves especially, because others may or may not understand the depth of emotion, right? Or the intensity of the energy around it. And so we get to be loving to ourselves and gentle, and allow ourselves to move through without making deeper meaning, to just be as present as we can to the sensations. Maybe like right now I feel a tension in my throat, and being aware of that and allowing myself to be present to that rather than resisting it or pretending it's not there. And then what I'm noticing is, for instance, that I have a little bit of tension in the back of my neck. And as you follow these experiences, it allows that energy to move, because and in fact, now, having just said that, now I feel lighter than I did a minute ago, because instead of pretending that it wasn't there, I was able to put my attention on it. And by doing so, somehow, in acknowledging that energy, it allows it to move. And I encourage you to try that for yourselves, because it's one of the most powerful forms of alchemy I have ever discovered, is in that moment of emotion to be present to what is happening in your physical body, because energy is going to move from place to place to place. You'll be aware of a tickle or a pain or a tension or a constriction or whatever. And Christina says, taking a moment to breathe light into some of my own tension spots. It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference to breathe into those places. And you know what? Whether you breathe light or you just breathe and place your attention there without judgment or story, that energy will then move. And Tammy Fisk, thank you so much, says, sending you hugs every time you tear up. I do as well. Don't know why. Feeling with you this morning. Thank you, Tammy. I have to say that just putting my attention on the tension in my throat really truly lightened me up dramatically. And so back to Christina talking about the waves that we experience. If we allow ourselves to feel those waves, they move, they pass. And what we do in that process is transmute the energy of those emotions, not only for ourselves, but for the field that we are all part of. So we all get to contribute to the field, and just some of us are transformers, right? Transforming that energy. And I think a lot of us are. And as we learn to not make those emotions personal, we have greater capacity to make those shifts. And Christina says, thank you for sharing your own realness. It's so important. I appreciate you. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate you too. I appreciate all of you. It's such a gift to have you here. Hello, Lauren. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about being emotional alchemists and how allowing ourselves to be present to even uncomfortable emotions allows us to transform the energy of that and the emotion of that, not only for ourselves, but for the field beyond. And talking about how it comes in waves and how I experience a lot of this in my throat. And it was really interesting. Last night it was almost like I was feeling like gasping for breath with the depth and the profundity of the emotion. So now I'm just allowing myself to be present so you can see that this actually works. And I notice that I have tension, particularly on the right side of my throat. And as now in the center of my throat. Long time no see to you as well, Lauren. Welcome. And as you can see, that just by allowing myself to be present, my voice is changing, but also the whole energy of that wave is changing. So I encourage you, like I'm demonstrating that this stuff works, and it works for me really profoundly, and I think it will for you too. So just allow yourself to try it and move through. Thank you guys for the love. It's right back at you. So Bethany says, yes, emotion asked to be felt. I love what you said about not taking emotions personally. Right. Because I do think that so much transmuting, exactly. I do think that we're kind of like a battery, a transformer. We're transforming energy from one state to another. And if we allow it to flow through and transmute and elevate, then, we elevate, but we also that's another way we contribute to the field. I think that's what we're here for, so many of us. And Christina says, transformer, more than meets the eye. I'm showing my age with that one. Well, I don't know that one, so I wish I could join you there, but I thank you for sharing it. Anyway, see, the thing is, emotion's fluid, right? It's fluid. We're fluid. We move in waves. As we allow ourselves to ride the wave, it comes and goes. It's like the tide coming in and the tide going out. And we get to do that with it. So feel your feelings when you feel them, and allow that without the resistance. And Bethany says, I had that thought too. Transformers, laugh out loud. Transformers, 1980s Transformers cartoon. Yes. Okay, now I remember. Thank you. So anyway, this has been really powerful for me. I hope it's been helpful for you. I hope that you can allow yourself to move through the waves of your emotions. Surf those waves, baby. We can do this together. And I love you, and I so appreciate your being here with me. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I am here every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Facebook pages where we go live. And if you haven't already, checked out the Enlightened World Network Facebook page community, go for it, because it's lots and lots of heart-centered, spiritually minded, and elevated folks. And Danette says, I love this talk. Thank you again. Such a pleasure, Danette. And Christina says that giggle reminded me that laughter is the best medicine. I agree. I agree. And you know what? We can laugh for no reason at all. Just because we say so, we can laugh. And just remember, we're fluid, and we can transform things together. So lots of love. Hope to see you again here soon. And have a good one. Transforming.